Hey guys, and welcome to the Constitution class. It's about 2:31 by my clock. So if you're getting this message, you're coming in. Why don't you jump ahead? If you want to just jump in directly to the class, we start about 3 o'clock. So it'll be about a half hour. So just scoot forward about a half an hour, and you'll get to the class. So just gonna sit here and let people filter in and chat with them um, until Doug gets here. So. What's going on there, we the people? Oh, where am I? And Amy. Hello, Lady Di. How you feeling today? I'm okay with it. Did you get a care package there, Amy? Tomorrow. It'll be tomorrow. I dropped it off at the distribution center. Why won't this thing work? We got 7 people here. Crazy. Yes, it will. It'll help you. I need to make another trip down to south of the border. Kind of one more last ditch effort before the bottom drops out. I was at the first one. I got sick at the first one. I was behind the scenes. I got to meet all the people. I've been to about 4 or 5. Yeah, I've had Clay on my show. Mm. I'm glad you got some sleep, Amy. I didn't really get much sleep last night. I didn't even make the gym this morning. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I didn't even get to the gym this morning. I know, right? But it's getting better. Still getting better. I'm down. I think when it's all said and done, right now I'm down about 40. So still got a bunch more to go though. I did, but I always do. I always do. That's like they're like, "Are you? Do you sure you don't want to like cut back a little bit?" And I'm like, "No, I do three. I do three of these a month because it's the only thing that keeps me sane." But he's going to be gone most of August. I only get to. He's only going to be there once. So I have an appointment on August 16th, and then I gotta wait until he comes back until like the first. I want to say it's like September the 6th or something like that. So I only get like one more over the course of the next 6 weeks. Well, of course, that's what they did. Anybody who's pro Christian, pro Constitution, pro limited government is a terrorist because we threaten their way of life. We threaten their big government, replacing God as with big government as God. So of course they think that way. And if you want to know who the major purveyor of that information into the media and into the Democratic Party and whatnot, it's the ADL. But you won't get me to say that again. Where's Warhamster today? Is he even coming? Hello, Jennifer. You're early. Of course, I sent you the link early. It's just me right now. You're welcome. Of course, I have his number. Come on, man. Of course, I have his number. I just did. I just texted him. Mm.
Channel mode.
Is there anything good going on? Hello there, Michelle. What's going on in Norco today, Jen? Anything? This? It's a radio. It's a radio. With a, you saw the weirdest. Oh yeah, please. Of course. I don't think that's a chemtrail, Jen. That's just a cloud. But it is very funky. That is a very, very bizarre looking cloud. And that looks like, is that in that's your backyard, isn't it? Yes, we the people. Go ahead. Tell them about your event. Oh, there's a chemtrail up in it. Yeah. Looks like it. That's a weird cloud. What's going on there, Darren? Oh, was that picture from Arizona? Where in Arizona? Are you near the river? Still? Okay. Because I was in Arizona on Friday. I think when you texted me that picture from I-40, and I was on my way to Arizona. I was heading up to Prescott. I didn't have a very good time, Jen. That was a FUBAR trip. I was going to go up there to the Trump rally. That was where I was going, and then that didn't happen, and then I ended up getting a flat tire, or not a flat tire, but tire, or not a flat tire, but anyway, I had to replace my rim. This been ugly. Yes. Yes, it does.
Hey, Jennifer.
You have no idea, Jennifer. You have no idea, Jennifer. I'm okay. How are you?
Good, man. Just got to the pool.
Very nice. Are you? I thought you were going to be moved by now.
I'm still living out of a suitcase. I'll looking at a couple more places this weekend. We're getting there. I think I found an office too nearby where I want to move.
Cool.
Yeah, I've had enough of this work from home stuff.
I get it. Yeah, it was brutal, Jen. The heat was hot. Well, I don't know. Were you in Jennifer? Were you in what were you like, Havasu? Is that where you guys went? Oh, on Bullhead, 117. Oh,
Buddy used to live out there. He ran a golf course there, and it does get hot.
117 is just insane. $117 is just insane, and I understand exactly what you're saying, Darren. So, you want to talk about this thing with Thousand Oaks, or is it Thousand Oaks or Sherman Oaks or whatever? You got to go pick
What's
somebody
that?
up. You got to go pick somebody.
Yeah. We'll have to figure out how that's going to work logistically. For at least one of the routes, definitely have you come along. I mean, we can definitely make that happen. So I don't know if it'll be coming or going. We'll have to figure out the times and schedules. So I'm thinking in the morning, it might be making me more sense to go up straight from San Diego as opposed to going east to meet you.
Well, I
get
it. If it was something like that, what I would do is I'd come down and stay, and then pick you up, and then go, and then I'd go the morning. We go together. I mean,
okay.
I'm just saying there's no lengths that I would not go to make that happen.
Yeah, and I'm more than happy to work with you. We'll figure out the logistics.
That's like it's like one of my freaking heroes.
Well, I know. That's what I knew you. Yeah. Well, I knew you were going to be excited when I told you about it.
Yeah, because I didn't go to the Red Pill Expo.
No, yeah, we were going to do that. We were going to drive across the country. I remember that. Mm-hmm. That's when your back was hurting you.
Yes. No, the Red Pill Expo in July.
Oh, that one too. Yeah. Well, I guess you missed both of them.
Yeah. You got up at 5 a.m. to go shooting. Awesome. That's a good thing to go. That's a good reason to get up at 5 a.m. What'd you shoot?
Who else we got in here today? We got Darren. We got We the People. We got Jen.
Amy's here.
I see an Amy Fierce Thompson. Hi, Amy. Lady got a lady die. You know, I picked up a bunch of followers on Truth Social today. I think it was from the podcast, from our show yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, I picked up like 5 or 6 new ones. That's, for me, that's a lot.
Nice.
Yeah, I need to actually start putting some content out. Oh man, I was so tempted to call you up and do a spur of the moment glitch today.
Why?
That news coming out of about the FBI whistleblowers is a big deal.
What? Huh? What?
Yeah. I'll share it with you. We don't have time to get into it here, but you know,
we got 10 minutes.
Well, let's see if I can give you a quick version of it. Turns out that one of the we got some FBI whistleblowers, and they're talking about how basically the FBI brass is slow walking. They covered up the Hunter Biden stuff. They were putting it in files where nobody could find it. I mean, just all the details are coming out, and it turns out one of the guys is the same guy who basically interviewed Igor Danchenko, who was the
what a shock
subsource number one, and kept basically lied about his sourcing so they can get the FISA warrant. And it smells every bit as bad as we always did, but now we're getting names and dates. So there's a lot to it.
It's I mean, it's not anything that we didn't know.
No, we are getting some new stuff. We're getting the name dates are new, and just it's what we thought for the last 6 years. It's every bit as bad as we thought, but now we're getting all the confirmation.
But see, this kind of goes to the point that what you talked about last night about, well, we can't talk about this because there's no. This is conspiracy theory because we don't have any verifiable evidence.
Well, we do now.
But my point is that the guys like, people who've been talking about this stuff for years, they didn't have any evidence, but they knew it because they could read between the lines. But just because we read between the lines and we don't have evidence doesn't mean that we're wrong.
Yeah, I always thought we did have enough evidence, and I think Dan Bongino's book was the one that really laid it out so clearly that that's basically how I red pilled my parents. I walked them through the Bongino arguments, and they go, this is pretty bad. Now they watch Tucker.
Well, I will argue with you on that, but you know where I stand.
What, on Tucker?
Yeah.
Should have heard him last night, man. He was awesome. He destroyed Big Pharma. Absolutely destroyed it. I sent that out to so many people.
Well, you know my litmus test.
Mm-hmm. I do.
You know my litmus test.
Trying to get caught up here on the chat.
You're welcome. You're welcome there. Agreed.
Yes,
Agreed.
Fox News is very bad, Darren. I agree, but Tucker is a really important voice in the culture war. What he says at Monday night, the mainstream media will be talking about on Tuesday. So he is must-watch TV for me. The only two shows I never miss are Tucker and Dan Bongino. So
both
weird seeing my name.
Both who fail my litmus test.
Huh? Doesn't mean they don't have a lot of valuable information.
I agree.
No, but you really ought to.
What's he saying, Tracy? Did Tracy? Did he do a video?
He's talking about the World Economic Forum and the green,
the
climate change people.
I'm gonna go to the BitChute channel.
Hello, Michelle. Nah, nothing to apologize for, Darren. I hate most of Fox News.
He did 2 videos today, Sri Lanka and 4th Gen War. And he did 4th Gen War. Huh. Okay. Sri Lanka are us. Interesting. Did you see that video of what the hell is his name? Who was Iron Man? Who's the guy who played Iron Man?
Tony Stark. No, the actor.
Yeah.
What's his name? Yeah, it's Matt. God, I'm so bad with actors.
I don't even care anymore.
Yeah, neither do I. But he's actually a talented actor.
Yeah, Robert Downey Jr. Thank you, Robert Downey. So Robert Downey Jr. was on Stephen Colbert, and he was promoting eating freaking bugs. Didn't see it in the chat? I shared it in the chat.
In ours?
Yeah.
Where was it? Earlier today?
Yeah, about half hour ago.
No, well, I was in the pool. I'm just not
in the news. In the news.
You see me? Yeah, see me looking down. I'm trying to catch up on all the texts. Good job, Jen's Peppy. How do we say that? Giuseppe?
No,
or just Jen.
Jennifer De Giuseppe.
All right, we'll just call her Jen. How's that? Is that cool? We can go with an abbreviated.
Yes, call her Jen.
Yeah, I'm not a big Hollywood guy.
Jennifer.
We got you run into living in Southern California relatively frequently. You run into somebody who's famous, and I get caught with this all the time. Somebody will say, "Do you know who you're just talking to?" I go, "No, I've got no idea." And it'll be somebody I'm supposed to know, but so I'm completely clueless. The best one was Aaron Rodgers, the football player. I was sitting at a bar talking baseball with him for like an hour, and totally cool guy. Knows his baseball. We're having a good time, having a beer. He gets up to go to the restroom. The bartender comes over. He goes, "You know who that is?" I go, "Yeah, some dude named Aaron lives down the block." He goes, "No, that's Aaron Rodgers." The football player? I should have recognized him, but I didn't. I'm just terrible at that.
Did I ever tell you the story about the guy who came into my dad's pharmacy, and he went up and talked to him and talked to him for like a while and didn't have any idea, and he went back and all the girls in the pharmacy were just going absolute batshit crazy. and they're like, "You don't know who that is?" And he's like, "Oh, it's Steven Tyler from Aerosmith."
I might recognize him.
Well, my dad's like, yeah, he's like, he told me if I want anything signed, he'd take it down. So I sent several of my CDs and had him sign my CDs, my Aerosmith stuff.
That's cool.
Okay, so we're taking bets today. What? It's 2:57. When is? I won last week. I said 2:58, and Doug showed up. So
I think you got it rigged. I'm sticking with my 3:01.
3:01.
Mr. 1 minute late.
I'm gonna go 2:59 today. I'm gonna pump it back a minute just because. Just because. So I'm gonna go 2:59. We'll see what happens.
See, the problem is, Ron, you're just going to sit there and make him stay in the waiting room until it hits your time, and then you'll let him.
No. I don't.
We just don't trust you.
I don't roll that way. Jennifer 302. Nice. Tracy 3 on the nose.
All right. The bets are in.
CC's like 3 o'clock straight up. So up 2:58. We're all wrong. We're all wrong.
What, are you guys taking bets now?
Yeah, we were taking bets. So I said 2:59, but I guess because I said the earliest, I'm still the winner.
No, it's the closest without going over, and you went over. The pot carries over till next. The pot carries over till next week.
No, the going over in time would be like if I said 2:57, and then 2:58 came. It works the other way in time.
The judges say it's got to be exact. The pot carries over.
We have 33 waiting for you in chat.
33?
33. That's actually a pretty decent number to start off with.
All right, everybody, hit the like button and the share.
It's good to see you guys. Yeah, I actually was home a half an hour ago, but I took a nap. So I'm tired.
Did you want some cheese with that wine?
Yes. Kiss my grits.
Hey, I got to tell you, Mr. Gibbs, I'm a little disappointed in you because I had to find out from the War Hamster about G. Edward Griffin.
You don't pay attention to my emails?
I told him about it to open our show last night, Doug, and Ron's all, you got to take me with you. I got to go. So, we'll negotiate it.
I was telling Alan Myers about our conversation. I said, yeah, I'm talking to Warhamster about, how it's going to be tough, trying to get ready for the event and go get Jed Griffin. It's going to be tough, and Warhamster's basically like, well, can I go get him? Kind of attitude. And he didn't say it this way, but it almost came across as, can I, please, can I, right?
That's exactly how it would have been for me. I'm like, dude, you got to let me get him. I'll go pick him up. I will do it.
And I'm like, my attitude is like, oh, thanks for doing me this favor kind of respond. He's like, no, thank you,
Yeah. Exactly.
And Doug, if you look at the text, if you look at the box that I'm in, can you see my name?
Oh. Yeah, so I'm allowed to use the first name now.
Well, you may as well.
You were using it anyway.
No, Doug's been pretty good. Even in class, he always calls me War Hamster. So
yeah,
he's actually
I'll catch myself when I do screw up, and I'll be like, screwed up, But all right,
it's Michael. It was Michael on the glitch last week that dropped like 18 Brady's. All right, let's not even try this anymore. At this point, it's a silly game.
Well, my friend Tim Curlin went by Loki, and no one ever called him, Tim or anything, and that's fine. But I've always just by my name. Now that said, people used to like to call me Mr. Pistachio because of political pistachio, and then the Mr. Constitution, which is fantastic. But what's funny about Mr. Constitution, and we'll finish with this and then we'll get started, is we the people. Yep, $1,000 pool, right? Ron is the one that came up with Mr. Constitution. And then when I started going, well, gosh, I need to make sure I'm not stealing somebody's trademark or something. So I started looking up, possibility of it somebody else. And I found one person who goes by Mr. Constitution, and he's been doing it since 91. Turns out he used to teach Constitution classes here in Southern California out of Lake Matthews. And then he moved to Oregon. He's up in Oregon now, John. And he called into John Chambers. And so I contacted him, just to make sure, because I didn't want to be, using something that's copyrighted or trademarked. And he's like, dude, no, I'm glad there should be a Mr. Constitution in every county. And I'm like, good answer. He actually called in the radio show last Saturday. And matter of fact, I proofread, well, I shouldn't say proofread, reviewed a book he has getting ready to come out, and wrote a little quick review, blurb that he's going to put in the book. But we've actually become friends. Haven't met yet, but we have actually kind of become friends. And he's told me he's learned off of me. I've definitely learned off of him. And it's a couple of things from me that he says, I never looked at it that way before. You had got me thinking. I looked stuff up, So it's a very so it's very cool. Very, 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 very cool indeed. But anyway, so that all said, Mr. Pistachio, Mr. Constitution, or Douglas V. Gibbs, just don't call me late for dinner. Good to see you guys. Appreciate the fact that you're here. My Fallbrook class today, by the way, the church is having Vacation Bible School, and the pastor gave me a wonderful heads up of letting me know at the tail end of the day, Sunday night. And so yesterday morning, I'm like, gosh, what am I going to do with my Tuesday morning class? Someone says, well, hold it at the library. The fact that the Constitution Association is a nonprofit, we were able to use the library at no cost. And so we had the class this morning, and almost the whole class was there. It's a pretty good crowd. So so it's amazing how people are hungry for information. Speaking about being hungry for information, it's good to have you guys, and we are on the 9th Amendment. Now, what we did last time as we worked our way through the amendments, when we got to the end, is we had Alan Myers come on. He talked about the monetary system and the Federal Reserve, and then we just started over again. But I have a feeling this time what Ron wants to do before we do all of that is after we get to the end of the Constitution, let's do some shows on specific topics. Let's do some topic episodes. I think you had said something along those lines, Ron, at one point.
I want to do some stuff where we just basically like field questions, like people come in and get to ask questions, and just any random question. Like, okay, so for example,
why is Doug so handsome? All right. No.
Yeah, so that wasn't the question.
I'm old, fat, and ugly now. I got
a text today that says, I'm having a friend tell me that it is possible for Obama to step in and be president. He says the term is actually 10 years, not the 2 4-year terms. Is that constitutional? I said, no. Only if he is vice president for 2 years, then he can be elected twice. If he assumes president...
He can't be vice president either because...
No. If he assumed president in the first or second year, he could only run for election once. Basically, I just said that you can't...
Yeah.
You
two terms for 10 years. He's not eligible now because...
he's not eligible because that's the 2 years is on the front end, not on the back end.
Pretty much, yeah. And I had someone say, well, what if he served 2 years as vice president, then 2 years as president? It doesn't work that way. You don't plan it out that way, first of all. Second of all, even to be vice president, you have to be, last sentence of the 12th Amendment says, in order to be vice president, you have to be eligible to be president. He's not eligible to be president because he's already served 2 terms, so he couldn't even be vice president.
So I saw an interesting postulation yesterday where they talked about Gavin Newsom went to D.C. and the
measure of the drapes, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The scuttlebutt is that they want to do a similar situation with Gavin Newsom, like what happened to Gerald Ford. Like if they put Gavin Newsom in as vice president, and then Biden resigns, then Newsom is president.
Right. I've
So-
heard that. I'm not going to put thoughts into their brains or words into their mouths.
Well, there's a bit of there's a small little issue named Kamala Harris that probably wouldn't want that to happen, and there were deals cut to get her to be VP. So you'd be basically splintering the Democratic Party if you tried to knock her out of the way.
Yeah.
The radical left would go bat crazy. But I like that idea. I like that idea, Ron, about doing an Ask Me Anything, and it's funny that you brought that up because one of the moderators on the Great Awakening.win asked me to do a Ask Me Anything for a few hours on the channel, on whatever on that website. So I'm doing that on Friday, and I was going to
What
actually
time
ask
Friday?
if I think I think it'll be like at 5 to 8. I'll do. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to have you guys standing by in case somebody asks me something.
Because remember on Friday I start at 8 when it comes to We the People's thing. So
That's not this Friday, is it? Is it this Friday?
yeah, that's
Yes,
this Friday.
it's this Friday.
Okay, so it's 8 o'clock our time, so I need to be in there. Okay, so I can cut mine off early.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure it didn't interfere. But doing yours right before, and then just tell everybody, head on over to We the People's channel. But
I'll absolutely do that. It should be, I should have. Apparently, the last time they did an Ask Me Anything, they had a few hundred people participating. Obviously, I'm not going to have time to get to a few hundred questions, but
Cabal Harris, I like it. Cabal Harris is not an American citizen. That's actually technically true.
Well, let's jump into the 9th Amendment.
Yeah, let's jump into it. All right, we have the 9th Amendment, the 10th Amendment. Good to see. Yeah, I know. My weird sense of humor precedes me. 9th Amendment, 10th Amendment. Typically, I can go through these two amendments relatively quick, but I want to take my time because I want everybody to have questions. Definitely pose questions if you have them, because for some people, these two amendments can be difficult to wrap their head around. And part of the problem is, it gets back to something we've talked about already in here before, is what is a right? What defines a right? How do we even determine that? And the 9th Amendment kind of brings up that question because, and let's read it real quick. 9th Amendment, Amendment 9. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. So let's break down language. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights. So it's telling you that all your rights are not in the Constitution. Certain rights are enumerated, listed. Okay? So certain rights are listed in the Constitution. There are certain rights. By using the words certain rights, it's saying that certain ones, not all of them. So the enumeration of the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others, so those others being the rights that are not listed in the Constitution, retained by the people. Retained is a very important word. Reserved might be another word you could use in its stead. In other words, we already have those rights. They're still ours. We retain them. They're just not listed. Just because they're not listed doesn't mean that the federal government can disparage or deny those rights. Now the question is, okay, so what's a right? What are we talking about? What types of things are we talking about? And when we think of rights, we automatically think of things like, the right to keep and bear arms, our guns, our speech, our the press, things that are enumerated and things that might not be enumerated. We have right to our homes being safe from search and seizure, 4th Amendment. Actually, that is listed. It's hard to come up with ones that are not enumerated, but they're there. We have government calling out, saying that there are rights that are not enumerated, and we're questioning, are they rights? Go ahead.
I was going to say, what about my right to get an abortion?
That's where I was headed.
I know.
Yeah, government has
and apparently men can get pregnant. That's I just wanted to make that clear.
You shared a very was that your meme? Dating in the 21st century.
No, it wasn't me.
So were the girls sitting there or laying there, and The guy's asleep, and she's like, "I hope I didn't get him pregnant."
It's funny.
All right. So anyway,
Insanity.
so let's talk about abortion. Is abortion a right? Is having an abortion a woman's right, if there are women, or a person's right, a birthing person's right? Gosh, when I first started this stuff
stop
10 years ago,
using that crap.
20 years ago, I never thought that they would head in this direction this badly. I knew they would, but I mean, it's even more outrageously crazy than I thought it would be.
Yeah, they have outdone Orwell. They really did. They got to Orwell level and just kept on going.
Yeah, you say, I accidentally got pregnant. I fell on my own. Anyway, so I gotta be careful. It's a family show. So question is it a right? What is a right? Couldn't a right be other things? I've talked about the right to swing my arms, the right to go through an intersection. But does a right mean I absolutely have to have it and there's nothing anybody can do about it? Or are some rights something that needs to have legislation around them to make sure those rights can be obtained in an orderly fashion? Is a right required for me to get no matter what, or is that up to me to pursue it? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, after all, right? Declaration of Independence. Or do you have a right to be happy? No, but you do have a right to pursue it. But does that mean you can pursue all things that you claim makes you happy? And at what point are those rights something that you shouldn't be pursuing or can't pursue, or how far can you pursue that before you've gone too far and it's no longer a right? These are all legitimate questions. And we have to remember that our rights have certain criteria. And one of the main criteria is that whatever that right is, whatever it may be, my right to do whatever or to have whatever it is stops at the edge of somebody else's right. That is one of the primary criteria. I have a right to keep and bear arms. I have a right to shoot my gun, but I don't have a right to shoot my gun until it kills somebody or it's disturbing the peace or things like that, correct? I have a right to swing my arms, but I don't have the right to swing my arms so that my fist connects into someone's face. I have a right to go to the intersection, but I don't have a right to go through the intersection in a dangerous manner that endangers the lives of other because I'm recklessly going through an intersection. Hence, that's the reason why we have stoplights, so that we can enjoy our right to go through that intersection in an orderly fashion. Consent to the governed, we consent to abide by the rules that are established by that putting in that stoplight, that we understand that green means go, red means stop, and yellow means floored if you're close enough. And so that's the society. That's how culture is supposed to work, and that's how our rights are supposed to operate. Okay? So now it's saying, hey, these rights that we just listed, and there's a bunch of them. I mentioned a few of them earlier. We've got, once again, religion, speech, press, assembly, petition, your right to keep and bear arms, the right to be not have government use your house, quarter troops in your house, or quarter federal agents in your house. You have a right to your own, to a certain amount of privacy in your own home, where you have a right not to be searched and seized without it being reasonable, and so on and so forth. You have a right to a trial. You have a right to, the list goes on and on and on. But these rights, some of these rights not being enumerated, my right to go to that intersection, whatever, shouldn't be disparaged. Now, I want you to understand what we're talking about here. This whole theme throughout the Bill of Rights, First Amendment, Second Amendment, and so on, right down to the Ninth Amendment, is saying whatever your rights are, whatever your rights may be, the role of government when it comes to our rights, whatever they are, is not to deny them, not to disparage them, to not make law, shall not be infringed, shall not violate, and so on and so forth. That's the language right here to the Ninth Amendment. Shall not be denied or disparaged. Notice that there's nothing in the Bill of Rights that says, oh, government's got to make sure you have your rights. Government's got to go out of its way to make laws to ensure that you can enjoy your right. Government must do whatever it can to guarantee or protect your right. That's not there. Have you noticed that? All of the language regarding rights is negative language when referring to government. Ninth Amendment simply says there's more rights than what's in the Constitution, what's been listed. There's more than that. A government can't touch those either. They can't make a law regarding those either. Shall not be infringed either. Shall not be violated either. That's all it's saying. But I want us to really get through our thick skulls here. Our rights are not to be protected and guaranteed. Government's role is to leave our rights alone, not to make laws that interfere with us accessing our rights. But there are times when our rights clash. That's when government gets involved. He wound up punching me in the face when he was swinging his arms. He has the right to swing his arms, but I violated that person's right not to be punched in the nose. Now government gets involved.
Well, wouldn't that be more of a deliberate punch in the nose?
Well, that's up to the courts to decide, right? Based on the evidence.
If he did it and it was accidental.
Well, okay, so I accidentally murdered them. I accidentally killed them.
That's called manslaughter.
Right. So there's still going to be a penalty. But government still needs to be involved if someone died. Someone got punched in the face. Government still needs to get involved to determine was it on purpose, was it not. That's where government's role is my point.
So I looked up the definition of right, and I think this is the most succinct. It says it's a moral or legal entitlement to have or obtain something or to act in a certain way.
I could go with that. The problem with them using the word legal is while they're right legal, it makes the legal people think it's up to them to determine what it is.
Right.
That's it. And what Ron just read, it almost sounds like something out of a Series 7 textbook because stock owners have rights and warrants and stuff like that. That's almost a definition from that. Because as a shareholder of a publicly traded company, you do have rights. You have the right to vote. You have the right to a percentage of profits. You have all kinds of rights that go with it. But
and now, when it comes to those rights, Warhamster, Brady, now I can say that with a smile. When it comes to those rights, then there's not supposed to be any entity that interferes with the ability of that person to exercise those things, correct?
That is correct.
But it is not up. Well, hang on. But it's not up to the governing body when it comes to those things to ensure they're able to do that, because that's up to them if they want to do those things. Correct?
Yeah, the governing body has to establish rules that allow you to exercise those rights, and if they are not offered
allow you to exercise them, not force everybody to just do it or have it. That's my point. It's the same thing.
So let me ask you.
Go ahead,
but without interference. Go ahead.
So we the people asked, who determines rights?
Who owns them?
I mean, who owns them?
Who owns the rights that are out there?
Who
owns and possesses them?
I don't know if a right is something that is owned. I think a right is. I think I like the word entitled. A right is not owner. You don't own a right. A right just is. It's self-evident.
Well, I'm entitled from the point of view of God. Mm-hmm. I'm entitled to it because God gave it to me. Mm-hmm. But I'm not entitled to it in the sense of I'm entitled to be able to practice it, and the law has nothing, and no one can get in my way because I'm entitled.
Right. I understand
so I have to be careful with the word entitled here. But no, we own our rights. They belong to us. They're supposed to be in our possession. They're ours. God gave them to us as a gift. We own them.
So Lisa C. writes, she says, rights with a long-standing history, for example, parental rights. And I don't like using the word parental rights. I think that's well, Doug, you can address that one. I don't think that qualifies as a right.
Sure it does.
Does
Why
it?
not?
Yeah,
elaborate.
Want me to elaborate? You're the one arguing.
You have a right as a parent. You have a right as a parent. Basically, you not only do you have a right, but you have a responsibility as a parent.
But at what point is your right as a parent not a right? No, once again, it goes to when it interferes with other people's rights. Like I have a right to make my decisions for my children until they're at the age where they are that we have all decided on as a community or a society that they're able to make their decisions on their own.
Uh,
However, those rights stop when we violate some basic rights of the child, such as if we're abusing them or something like that. Children do have certain rights,
I,
but they don't have
I
all
want
the
to.
rights until they're able to practice
I want to
them themselves.
acknowledge. I want to acknowledge Amy. Amy, in my humble opinion, used the most correct term. She said we possess rights. I
Well,
like
I
that.
said that. We own them and we possess them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't hear
So
you say possess.
I did.
so
But that's
a
okay.
child or a minor has natural rights. What they don't have are legal rights until they become a legal adult.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Doug, I got a question for you. You don't. I don't think I've ever heard you talk about the difference between negative and positive rights, and I've always enjoyed that one because you give that one to a leftist, their head will explode every single time. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Negative versus positive rights, or is that just not an angle you've ever gone down?
I typically don't go down that because I try to keep things basic for the average person, and that's a complex topic. But first, only because I like putting you on up against a wall like that. What is the way you would explain what's the difference between negative and positive right? What is a negative right?
Basically, negative rights are what government cannot take it away. It's what they cannot do. A positive rights is the government granting a right, which they cannot do. So positive rights don't actually exist. At least that's the way I would say it. When they say I'll have a right to an abortion, that would be a positive right, not a negative right.
Now, and I like the way you put it because the first time I considered the difference between positive and negative, because I'd never really heard that term before, was until Obama. And do you remember what Obama called the Bill of Rights? It's a
No.
document of negative liberties. Negative rights is what he was saying. And what he was saying is it tells the government what it can't do, not what it should do. That was his definition of the difference between positive and negative rights.
Well, that's
So-
because he's a communist.
Right. Well, I know, but that ties into what Brady's bringing up here. There is no such thing as positive and negative rights. I don't even give them the benefit of even calling them that. You have one thing. That's it. You have natural rights. Either it's a natural right or it's not. Government can't grant natural rights. You have them naturally. They belong to you naturally. And your natural rights are tied into natural law. What is natural law? And Brady can still remember when I kind of made this connection in my head because he was the first one I talked to about it, but it really makes a lot of sense. Natural law is the natural order of things. God created things to go in a natural order. Now, that said, not everybody believes in God. Not everybody believes there is a benevolent supreme being. That's okay. All them natural rights. You naturally have them. There's a natural order. We can do it that way. That's fine. But there is a natural order. And when you follow the natural order of things, things go swimmingly. When you violate the natural order, there are consequences that are typically not good. And in a situation of natural order, we have a natural right, a part of natural law to take care of ourselves, to pursue it ourselves, though, not be given it. Understand? This is what we pursue. Take care of ourselves, have a way to protect what we have earned, to possess things, and to work, to have the ability to hunt, fish, gather, work, whatever it is in our society at the time that means take care of ourselves, to create a home, to have that home, to preserve that home, protect that home, to protect the things that are in it. I mean, that's all a part of the natural order. That's just natural. And the things that go along with what is natural would then be a natural right that goes along with it. We have a natural right to make babies, to care for those babies, to raise those babies up, parental rights. Is it a natural right to end one of those babies' lives before they have a chance to take a breath? That goes outside the natural order. The natural order is development of a human being, number one. Number two, there's another life at stake, another person involved. And if my right stops at the rights of the next person, and that person in the womb has the right to life, then abortion can't be a right. because it interferes with the right of that person to live. And someone says, well, it's not a person, it's a fetus. And that's the argument of the day now. I believe it's a person. And every person has a right to life, liberty, or property. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life, liberty, and the things that go along with it. We have a right to all of those things, unless our right is interfered with because we did something to our community, our society, that causes us a legal problem and a legal reason why we can't access those rights. Then that would be due process, conviction, and you'll lose access to those rights. But notice I didn't say you lose those rights. We always have our rights. We own them. We possess them. And a reason I like own is because of this. My truck, I own my truck. If someone stole my truck, it doesn't stop being my truck. I just don't have access to it. But it's still my truck. I have to go get it. I have to get it back. That's where your rights are. Your rights belong to you. They are your possession. You own them. And if there is something in the government that's getting in the way of our access to our rights, then it's up to us to ensure that we do what we can to unblock that barrier that's keeping us, to remove that barrier that's keeping us from having access to our God-given rights that belong to us. And but once again, this argument over what is a right. Well, once again, does it interfere with somebody else's rights? But I want to get even deeper now, as a Christian anyway. If they are God-given rights, then would not a right also be sanctioned by God? Because he's given them to you, must be something he would sanction, right? So then we ask, would God sanction abortion?
No.
Well, then it's not a right.
What if the life of the mother is at risk?
Then it's not an abortion. It's a medical procedure to save the life of the mother. It's a very rare instance. It does happen, and but it's very, very rare. Usually, when the mother's life is at risk, both lives are able to be saved when the child is removed. Because usually, if the mother's life is at risk, it's during the last trimester, and at that point, typically the baby's able to survive. So that's really a bad argument by the left.
They usually are.
Yeah. And then they say, well, incest and rape. And I said, well, incest is less than 1%. And when it comes to rape, I know a bunch of children who were born because of rape. And it wasn't something that was horrible for the mother. It was the blessing that came out of something horrible.
The left, for the most part, is very duplicitous. Their arguments are, they throw generic arguments at the wall. Or actually what they do is they take one small example of what they want to get done, and then they'll throw a generalized argument at it for that tiny little sliver of percentage of occurrences, and then they'll use it as a blanket to justify everything that they want to do.
Well, it's a gotcha. See, gotcha. You don't have an answer to that. See, I do.
Well, they start all of their discussions with a preconceived notion of where they want it to go, and then they try to backfill with arguments.
Correct.
Right.
Once one of them fails, they try to find another. They look for every angle to
Well,
justify their foregone conclusion, instead of ever questioning maybe their foregone conclusion might have been wrong in the first place.
Well, and I don't want to leave the conservatives off the hook, because sometimes the conservatives do that too. So that ship sails both ways, but I mean predominantly it's on the left. But the right uses confirmation bias just as much as the left does. So
I wouldn't say that. I would not say that.
I would.
No, not as much. Not as much. I think there's.
No. I didn't say as much. In fact, I think I was very specific when I said the left uses it a lot more, but the right does use it. Just because the left uses it more doesn't mean the right doesn't use it ever.
I think you said both. You need to rewind.
I said it goes both. I said that ship sails both ways. I did, but I did say that the left uses it much more than the right.
Well, as long as you ended up on the right conclusion, we can continue.
Typically don't have my dogs with me in here when I do this show, but
don't make me go get my cat.
They wanted to follow me, and now he barked, so he got scared. So this is Petey.
Hi, Petey. I've never seen Petey before.
Yeah, Petey's the
This is the first.
Lack
Is
of a
this
better
your
way of
first
putting
time?
it, he's the pussy of the two.
Is this your first time sharing a dog with your Constitution classes ever?
No, but it's usually not this one. It's on online on video. It's usually my Constitution radio show that I let him get on the air. The other one's too fat to pick up.
Are we done with
Hey,
the
let's-
ninth?
We,
Yeah,
yeah, but I want to just make sure everybody understands what we're talking about here. So, the ninth basically says there are rights enumerated in the Constitution. Even if a right is not enumerated in the Constitution, it's none of government's business to get involved. And remember when I talked about pursuit of happiness, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Remember I said you don't have a right to education, you have a right to pursue it. You don't have a right to health care, you have a right to pursue it. You don't have a right to have a cake baked the way you want, you have a right to pursue it. And it says here in Ninth Amendment that government shall not deny or disparage rights. So in other words, government can't make a law to deny the person from being able to have the cake baked the way they want. But it doesn't say they're supposed to deny somebody else's right in the process to make sure it happens.
Yeah, you just reminded me of my favorite example that they use is the right to health care.
Well, right to healthcare. The right to healthcare is you don't have a right to healthcare because you have to in order to give healthcare you have to infringe upon somebody's right to say no to give healthcare.
Yeah, we the people ask what kind of dog. Nobody knows. He's a
Ron,
mutt.
Ron, I say it a little bit differently. Your right to health care shouldn't be interpreted to mean my obligation to pay for it.
Yeah, because
Okay,
it's
and
interfering with your right.
Same thing. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's similar. Yeah, we were on the same path on that one.
Yeah, you have a right to pursue it, and government's not supposed to make any laws that could get in the way of that pursuit.
In other words, the government can't force me to give you health care for free.
No, it's up to me to get it.
Right. No, if I'm
Because
if
you
I'm a
have
doctor,
a right not to have to pay. Because you have a right not to have to pay for my damn health care.
well, no, okay. Let's speak.
I know what you're saying,
Theoretically,
but
I'm
I'm
a
just-
doctor and you're the patient. The government makes a law that says that I have to give you health care, and then the government's going to compensate me for it, but it's allegedly going to be free for you. Well,
No.
if I decide that I don't want to do that, I basically can't say no.
Well, you're supposed to be able to have a choice. Part of what rights is about is choosing. That's what the pursuit part is about.
Mm-hmm.
I have the right to pursue it, and when you're pursuing something, it means you can make choices.
Correct.
Choice is a big part of what our rights are about.
Agreed.
And it's funny too because you've seen the meme, I'm sure. If a conservative doesn't like guns, they don't buy one. If a liberal doesn't like guns, they don't want anybody to buy one.
Right.
If a conservative doesn't like their doctor, they go get a different doctor. If a liberal doesn't like their doctor, then they want to put them out of business and make sure everybody is forced to have such and such. I mean, there's the meme goes on and on, but
Right.
and that it all has to do with rights. A part of rights is our ability to make a choice. If choice is gone, it's just like getting back to that baking of a cake. You have a choice, but they also have a choice whether or not to make it. Their choice is also intact. If your choice eliminates their choice because government's forcing someone to make it, then it's then government has overstepped. So it's none of government's business. You don't like their choice not to bake a cake. Go find someone that will. Choices, pursuit. That's all a part of
Right.
our
Agreed.
rights.
Agree.
All right. I'm just here to peruse happiness. Peruse. Dyslexics untie. Unite. Get it. Tracy, that is brilliant in a very strange kind of way. All right. Jen says, bunch of little brats. Yeah, We the People says he's got questions for me later. We the People always has the toughest questions. That's the reason why I'm going to have that debate this Friday. It's because of We the People's questions. As always, We the People, if you're going to call me, you'll have half an hour to talk to me. He has my number. Because my first half of my trip is like in the open where I have a signal. Then I get on the Ortega and there's no signal. Second half of my trip to San Juan Capistrano. Just be aware, you'll have 30 minutes. Can you start your own republic if you own a land as big a state as, say, in Canada and create your own? There's a group that has done that, or they claim to have done that, but it really, it depends on if the entity who that property is a part of is willing to accept that. Comes down to legalities. In the United States, no, Constitution doesn't allow it.
Chop and Chaz was a insurrection.
All right, let's go to the 10th Amendment.
Sit to the 10th.
10th Amendment is interesting because, okay, so let's back up. We're at the end of the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights are... No, I'm not quitting early. Don't get nervous, conservative cowboy. It's not 6 yet. Well, you're not in California, that's for sure. So the Bill of Rights are the first 10 amendments. The first 3, that's your personal rights, your individual rights. Your right to religion, speech, press, which includes your ability to write, your ability to be out there. It's not just the newspapers and all this other stuff. These are personal rights that belong to all of us. Assembly, petition, right to keep and bear arms, the right to your home not being used by the government for soldiers or troops or agents or something like that without your permission. For you having to quarter them or house them or allow them in and all this sort of stuff. And the way I like to put it is law enforcement, they're like vampires. They're not allowed in unless you invite them. But, so that's your personal rights. And 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all your legal rights, which are individual and personal, but more specifically, they are your legal rights. 9 is all other rights. 10 is interesting. And there's some people that don't like this term. I don't mind using it, but they don't like it. 10 is states' rights. Now, I've had people argue me as well that you shouldn't call it states' rights because states aren't entities like we are where they're born with rights. They're not God-given, born with those rights. No, but who are the states? They are a collection of the people. So it's really our rights through our state. Okay? But Amendment 10 is states' rights, and here's what it says. The wrong amendment. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. This is the enumeration doctrine. The enumeration doctrine basically says if the federal government is going to have an authority, it is in the Constitution as an authority. If it's not, they don't have the authority. But then the question rises, well, then whose authority is it if it's not the federal government's authority? This answers that. Says if it's not given to the federal government and it's not prohibited to the states, in other words, it's not in the Constitution to tell the states you can't do this, then it automatically is a state authority or to the people. Now this word "or" here is a little different than the way we usually use "or." Usually, when we use the word "or," we mean, it's
something
instead of, right?
Is that one of those things that pushes a boat?
I didn't know oars pushed boats. You gotta get behind them. You just kind of take the oar and push the boat with it.
Yeah, they do when you're trying to get off a rock.
I was just throwing a little fly.
Yeah, he's trying to be funny and he failed miserably.
Whatever.
But Whatever. That's what happens when you're a Dodger fan. All right, but anyway,
that swept the Angels.
So someone actually wore a Dodger jersey to my class at San Juan Capistrano last week.
Oh, I want to meet that guy.
Her.
I want to meet her. It's awesome. Even better.
Yeah, you better get to my house fast if you want to go. But anyway.
No, that's way too out of the way.
Way too out of the way. Alan was willing to drive all the way up there from San Diego to do classes.
Okay.
Yeah, just saying.
What are you trying to say?
Good group, about 15 people. Okay. And it's near the beach.
We got 40.
Yeah. Well, we get even more after we go off the air and then people watch it later. But anyway, so 10th Amendment, powers not delegated by the United States to the United States by the Constitution. So first of all, it's telling us the powers are delegated. So if they're not delegated or prohibited by it to the states, that's reserved, that's like retained, right? Remember when I was talking about how retained by the people is sort of like reserved? Or reserved is sort of like retained. The states had all the powers. So if it's not given to the federal government and it's not prohibited to them, it's still theirs. It's still reserved to them, these authorities. And then, or to the people. So when we use the word or, and this is my point before we got off on the Dodgers, is the word or here, typically when we see the word or, it's this or it's that. It's one or the other. In this case, it's more of a concurrent thing. It doesn't really mean and, it's to the states first, but the people can take care of it too. Either with the state or as a concurrent thing or instead of the state. However, that's what the or really kind of means there. So let's use something that's near and dear to my heart to help explain this. Kamala Harris is not eligible for vice president or president. And so a lawsuit was filed by the Constitution Association December 7th, 2020, stating so. The district court dismissed it, saying that that this was we didn't have the authority to pursue this because Congress has the authority to determine the eligibility of the president or vice president. My response in our appeal to the Ninth Circuit was the authority to determine the eligibility of the president or the vice president is not in the Constitution, nor is it prohibited to the states. Therefore, the states or the people are the ones who determine that eligibility. The states failed, the people are not failing, we're on it. So we not only have every authority to be bringing this lawsuit, we have standing in ways that most cases don't. Their response was, and when I say their response, I mean the U.S. attorneys, not the courts. U.S. attorney's response was, oh, well, it does enumerate the power to determine eligibility in the Constitution because it says that Congress has the authority to impeach. Yeah,
What?
that look that Ron just did, that's the look I get from everybody. What? What in the hell does impeachment got to do with eligibility?
Yeah.
But see, this is the way these people think. Well, and then I said 10th Amendment. This is where the 10th Amendment comes in. Is it in the Constitution at all when it comes to determining the eligibility of the president or the vice president? No. And if it's not the Constitution, it is because of the 10th Amendment.
That's the most absurd thing.
No. There are things more absurd.
I'm still baffled.
Go to Wickard v. Filburn with the Commerce Clause. That one will even baffle you more. Okay. Yeah, trust me, they're really good at baffling people. But anyway,
I'm laughing at
Brady can only smile.
Well, no, I'm actually laughing at a question that just popped into the chat because I know you're going to want to address that. The bottom one from GH. One of your favorite questions.
Have you ever attended a law school or acquired some kind of credential that showcases your expertise in constitutional law?
I think
my response is always the same. Doug, are you a lawyer? And I say, no. That's why I understand the Constitution. No, sir, or ma'am. I did not go to law school. I have done the studies on my own. I am self-taught. I will tell a side story, and then I'll get back to the 10th Amendment. So I was on AM 590 in Riverside one time for a debate against a constitutional professor at the University of Redlands and a constitutional lawyer. And 590 AM is the station that used to carry Rush Limbaugh. So it's the most listened to talk station in the Riverside San Bernardino market. And after I had caused the constitutional professor and constitutional lawyer a few times to commit dead air because they didn't know how to respond. Normally dead air on the radio is bad, but for me it was a wonderful thing. As I'm walking to my car after the show, the constitutional professor comes jogging up to me across the gravel and says, hey, Doug, I need to talk to you. So I'm just curious. I said, okay, what's up? He says, I have never come across anybody that knows the Constitution and history as much as you do. You got to have at least what, a master's? And my response was, no, I think I got about 32 units of night school. Now, it's funny, and here's the thing. The left, it's all about academia.
Yep.
And so I've had people, who, especially back when I was driving a trucker in construction, he's just a truck driver. You know, like that's supposed to mean that I don't know nothing because I drive trucks, right?
Yeah,
And
if you don't have a certification, because the left is all big on you have to have a certification or a license, and if you don't
yeah,
have a piece of paper that justifies it, then
you got to
yeah,
have the piece of paper
yeah,
and peers in
Ron,
that industry
yeah.
that says that you're worthy.
the word you're
Um,
looking for, the word you're looking for, Ron, is credentialism.
yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, and no, I don't have academia's credentials that they would expect. But I challenge anybody to go look up what I talk about and prove me wrong. I'll even send you some the resources. Well, you don't. I don't need to send them to you. Go to Constitution. Go to douglasvgibbs.com/Constitution classes. Put a hyphen between Constitution and classes, and then on that page you'll say download my handouts. All 21 of my handouts. Download them. Look at them. I got the resources, or some of the resources that I use at the end of them. Look up my resources, and then look at what I had to say. And if you want to challenge it, let's duke it out. I'm going to do that on Friday. I have no problem with that. I feel very confident in what I believe. And I've got a credentialed constitutional professor chasing me down in a parking lot saying, whoa, you've got this stuff down better than I do. And I'm not credentialed. That says something. And I'm not trying to toot my horn. I'm not like, all hell, Scholar Doug. I don't even like the word scholar, although a lot of people call me that, and I don't necessarily poo-poo it per se. Not a fan of the word expert. X as a has been, spurts a drip. But
Okay, I want to address.
but I am well versed on this just because I've been studying it all my life.
I want to address this. So I want to address GH because I think he's being. This is very similar. Who was the guy who was here before? I don't remember his name. Whatever.
Well, let's not go too far off track, Ron. I want to get back on the 10th. We're running out of time.
I do want to address GH because GH says that what I just said, my dismissal of formal. I'm not dismissing it. It can be important, and for people that's what they need. But to dismiss it but dismiss what I'm saying by saying it's no different than homeschool than when parents only have high school diplomas. The homeschool kids I know from parents who only have high school diplomas are
vastly more intelligent,
far ahead
yeah,
of kids in public schools. First of all, second of all, just because they only have a high school diploma doesn't mean they're just pulling from their brain to teach their kid. Obviously, they're reaching out to different resources because they want their child to have the best education. And I'm a big fan of homeschooling. And as for those parents with just high school diplomas, sometimes what they do is I hire people like me. I teach government, history, and economics to high school homeschoolers. I am contracted by co-ops and ISPs to do that. And no, I don't have a teaching credential. No, I don't have a degree. And those kids come away from my class knowing more than what they would have in public school.
Scholarly, anything with using the term scholarly, it's like that's basically you have to fit inside of a box, and you teach outside of that box. And what I know about you, Doug, is you are the absolute opposite of that. You know everything in the box and more, and you teach people to think for themselves. And I'm a little insulted at what he said to you.
No, that's fine. I know who I am. I'm not worried about it. Go ahead, GH. Check out what I talk about, and say, well, I'm not a scholar. Okay, fine. Well versed, fine. Okay, whatever. Challenge my knowledge. Look it up. Stephanie, real quick, I want to address something she said. Catherine Henry said she's been on a show with you before and that she wants to be on your show. I love that lady. God bless her, but Doug needs to school her. Catherine Henry is awesome. I've been on Alan Meyer's For the Republic show with her twice. And the first time we were on, she was trying to argue with me, thinking I was the enemy. And then by the end of the show, she understood I was saying a lot of what she was saying, maybe not in the exact same manner, and that she had been taught a few things that weren't exactly on target in law school. The problem with law school is they don't teach the Constitution, they teach case law, and they teach precedent. And this goes back also to GH. The problem isn't whether or not law school is good in the sense of academics. The problem is, what are they teaching? And when it comes to Constitution, they don't teach the Constitution. I've had lawyers go through the Constitution with me in my classes and say they learned more about the Constitution from me than they did in law school.
And we've got several lawyers in your class.
And that's
So go-
and I do. I have several lawyers in my classes. And Catherine Henry is one of those folks who I've kind of schooled her a little bit, and we do know each other. We have a good relationship. I like her, and she definitely needs to be on my show sometime. She's definitely a sharp cookie, but she still has a little bit of the law school understanding of the Constitution stuck in her head.
Back to the 10th. Because
All
I got
right,
a
back to
question. I've got a question I want answered before we run out of time.
Okay.
Once again, online, the subject of can the topic of states decertifying their electors from the 2020 election came up again, and the argument came out again. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say anything about decertification. To which I replied, and got a whole lot of upvotes to the other guy's downvotes. Exactly, the 10th Amendment suggests that the federal government cannot decertify. That's what the Constitution cannot do. However, the 10th Amendment suggests the states do have that right. That's I was using the 10th Amendment
the word
argument.
certify shows up twice in the Constitution. In one area it has brackets, it's no longer a part, and then the updated version of that. And basically, the only people that can certify the electoral votes based on what the Constitution has to say is the electors themselves. As for decertification, the word decertify does not appear. There is no authorization regarding decertification. Therefore, exactly right, the 10th Amendment then comes into play. That is up to the state legislatures or the states to decertify their own electoral votes. Real quick, because GH threw something else that I got to throw in there. You are no different from Chris Ann Hall. I am very different from Chris Ann Hall. For one, I use a different restroom. But Chris Ann Hall is a friend. She and I, on most issues, are 100% in line with each other. There's a handful where we're basically in line, but we kind of have a slightly different approach. And she's not a fan of Article 5 conventions. I am. But aside from that, she and I, we're very alike. And you say it as if that's a put down. I say it as if it is a compliment because I respect Chris Ann Hall greatly. Okay, enough of GH. Appreciate, and I have written articles. I've written books. The reason why I don't have scholarly articles is because the academia doesn't want anything to do with me, and so their refusal to acknowledge the truth doesn't make me less scholarly. It makes them less scholarly. Okay, now that all said. Enough of that stuff. So let's wrap up the 10th Amendment. So getting back to what we're talking about here. So the powers are not delegated to the United States by the Constitution. It's not an authority, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectfully or to the people. Getting back to Kamala Harris. So we, the people, have the authority to have that case. The states had the authority to say, you know what, she's not eligible. She's not going to be on our ballots. They didn't do their job. That's why I have to have that lawsuit. But it's or to the people. We can too. We are a part of that process of determining eligibility. You got to remember who wrote the Constitution? Delegates from the states representing we the people. So who's the final arbiters of what the Constitution means? The states and the people. And GH had said something about
room for disagreement, which basically is talking about interpretation. So it's right now he's like Chris Ann Hall says there's no room for disagreement about the Constitution, and I tend to kind of agree with that because we have all of their thoughts on paper in the Federalist Papers. So we know what their intent was. We don't have to guess. There was really no room for disagreement because we know what their intent was, and we can't use modern language to interpret the Constitution. We have to interpret the Constitution as from the men who wrote it, based on what they told us it meant. Mm-hmm. So it's not open for debate.
Yeah, well, the problem is that, and be honest with you, if you read Madison's notes, there was suggestions that the members of the Supreme Court should not be lawyers. Mm-hmm. The problem is lawyers take the law or whatever something is, and they want to, fit it into what they're trying to prove or whatever, and so they'll play games with it. And the way the founding fathers were when it came to the Constitution is it's a contract. It says what it says. It means what it means. Nothing beyond that. That's the way contract law works. Yep. And the fact that we've got a bunch of people wanting to interpret it to mean something else, even if there's evidence saying the founders meant otherwise, yeah, but we're the lawyers and the judges, we can interpret, and the politicians, we interpret it the way we want it to interpret it, because it's are you ready for it, everybody? A living and breathing document that changes with the times.
No,
that's why they wrote it. Common law was living and breathing and changed with the times and was changed by case law and judicial decisions. They wrote the Constitution to get away from that.
The last one last comment about credentialism. I'm the last person who's ever going to post their own credentials academically online and stuff like that. But let me just say, if I did, they would hold up pretty well from some pretty fine schools. And I still go to Doug's class twice a week for the last year and a half. I learn from him every week. Yeah, that's all the credentials I need. It's I go where the knowledge is to be found.
Well, and Brady said something one time that I took to heart, but it's a good statement. I hope you don't mind me repeating. He says, "Doug, if ever I find out that you've lied to me, we're done."
Did I say that?
No, it's a wonderful statement, and it's important. I'm not blowing smoke up your butt here. I've studied this stuff. I'm telling you what it says, what it was said. If I'm wrong, I need to know. So far, nobody's been able to really get me on that. But and I will tell you, hey, if there's evidence otherwise, let me know. Let's have that discussion. But the thing is, this is not about constitutional law, and I'm not a fan of that term. This is about what the Constitution says itself. Constitutional law is their interpretation. That's why I don't like the term constitutional law, because it's like birthright citizenship. Well, if you're born on American soil, you're automatically a citizen. The two guys who wrote the Citizenship Clause didn't say that. They said, well, Wong Kim Ark of 1898 versus the United States, that says that. Actually, it doesn't either. They took their interpretation. They claimed certain things said it that way, which doesn't. And then you're just supposed to say, okay, because they're lawyers or judges, we have to, we have to believe them. And I'll leave you guys, because we're getting to the end of the segment here, or the show here. Is one of the ways in my classes I like to help explain this to others and what they have done is tell a little story here about my wife and myself and my mother-in-law. My wife was born in Mexico. Her parents immigrated here when she was a child. Spanish is her first language. English is her second language. My wife is bilingual. I'm not bilingual. I know one language, English. I do speak English. I don't speak Spanish. My mother-in-law, who's been here since the 60s, speaks Spanish. She does not speak English. So if I want to communicate with my mother-in-law, I need an interpreter. My wife usually serves as that interpreter. And I'll tell my wife in English what I want her to tell her mother. She tells her in Spanish. Her mother responds in Spanish. My wife tells me in English what she said, and I believe her, even though it doesn't necessarily match the look on the face of my mother-in-law. But I have to believe her. Why? Because I don't know the other language. And therefore, I have to trust the interpreter. The interpreter has all the power there, because the interpreter doesn't have to interpret exactly what my mother-in-law said. She can tell me whatever she wants. Because I don't know the language, I have to believe her. The lawyers and the judges and the politicians have established themselves as those interpreters, and so they took all the power. The problem is they get upset when someone says, wait a second, I do speak the language, I do know the language, and you're not translating it properly. And it challenges their position as the interpreters. And so they have to destroy that person that's given them that challenge, because it challenges their power. And so when I'm attacked, that's how I take it.
The GH said that you have to be credentialed to serve on the Supreme Court, and that is wrong.
That is wrong.
Absolutely wrong. You can actually, I put the link to the SupremeCourt.gov. You can go there and look at yourself there, GH. Are there qualifications to be a justice? Do you have to be a lawyer to attend law school or to be a Supreme Court justice?
Nope.
The Constitution does not specify qualifications for justices, such as age, education, profession, native-born citizenship. A justice does not have to be a lawyer or a law school graduate, but all justices have been trained in the law. Many of the 18th century and 19th century justices studied law under a mentor because there were few law schools in the country.
What was that? What was that ridiculous statement made by one of the liberal judges just last week? It was one of the most unconstitutional statements I think I'd ever heard. Gosh, I should have.
Brown Jackson said a few things, but go ahead.
It was one of the. It was Keegan
Kagan.
or whatever. Kagan said something was just absolutely brutal. It was one of the most. It showed so little understanding of the Constitution. I don't think I'd ever heard anything that bad from a Supreme Court justice. I'll track that down and bring it next week. I know where to find it.
I want to thank Stephanie for coming to my defense. Stephanie, appreciate you, sweetie. She's up there where she's glad it's the time of the year because it could get really cold at different parts of the year. I won't tell you where she's at because it's her business to tell you. But I tell you what, she lives in a place where I would be like winter. No thanks.
So GH says.
But love you, Stephanie. Thank you for standing up.
He said she I don't know says he was speaking realistically. No, you spoke matter of factly. You said you need credentials to serve on the Supreme Court, and a Supreme Court justice would never be engaged in YouTube screaming. So, okay, that was a very matter of fact statement. That is not true. So you do not need to be credentialed. You can say realistically all you want, and maybe they may not pass the Senate for confirmation, but in terms of qualifications, you do not need to be a judge, a lawyer. You don't even have to have a high school diploma.
Stephanie was willing to put out there where she's at, Michigan. Yeah, it gets pretty cold up there during the winter. I've got a friend of mine who used to live in Michigan, who I consider my mentor, Tim Loki Curlin. And I remember one time during the winter, it was like January, and he calls me up and we're talking. I said, "So what are you up to?" And he says, "It's snowing outside. It's pretty thick. There's so many feet of snow. So, we're inside." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm having a barbecue." He's like, "Screw you." But
we'll let you go, Doug. I know that you gotta drive. So
GH, real quick, I want to say this to GH. Thank you for being in the chat room. Thank you for what you got to say. You may not agree, or you may have your that's okay. Hear me out at least, and then we can, and then you can make your decisions after hearing what I've got to say. All I ask is that you don't disrupt. But everybody's welcome here. Mm-hmm. Everybody.
Agreed.
All right,
I hope GH. I hope GH is good to see a new face in here. Good, hard questions. We've heard them before from other people, and they're the questions that need to be answered because there are misunderstandings about a lot of things. Please come back. We'd like to see you here next week.
Oh, absolutely.
Judge for yourself whether what Doug's teaching is worth learning. I personally, obviously, I've made my opinion is pretty clear. I think it's worth it. Spending the time on.
Yep. I appreciate that, sir. All right, let me mark my pocket constitution so I know where we left off. Yeah, I actually have a special pocket constitution for this class. We can't say that name, but you can see it. And so that I never lose track of where we left off. So
nice.
We'll close it this week. We'll reopen it next week. It's been a pleasure being here, and I'm going to close the way I close my radio shows. I'm already messing it up. United we stand. Combined we kick butt. God bless America, my friends. God bless you. It's been a pleasure being with you. We'll see you next week.
See you guys next week.
Cheers.